Yucca Flat, Nevada, May 19, 1953. At 5:05 a.m., one of a series of nuclear tests under the umbrella codenamed Upshot Knothole is set off. Within seconds of the blast, a disc-shaped object is seen rapidly descending from the sky, headed south toward Las Vegas, then disappearing into the mountains. Just 2 days after this event, government officials secretly gathered a team of scientists for a curious assignment. They were to investigate the crash of an unidentified flying object on the outskirts of Kingman, Arizona, a city 175 miles south of the nuclear test site.
There were 40 engineers that boarded a bus, and they took a long 3.5-hour ride from Phoenix to Kingman. When they got there, it was nighttime. There were MPs on all corners of the craft. It's about a 40-foot diameter disc-shaped craft that was perfectly intact. There wasn't a scratch on it. There were 4 beings associated with this craft, and they shipped it to Groom Lake.
Groom Lake is the Area 51 region in Nevada. When Area 51 was just bare bones, they took the craft and the aliens out to that location in the middle of the Nevada desert because it was so remote. And around that, they built Area 51.
Hidden within a ring of mountains deep in the Nevada desert, Area 51 is a top-secret military installation that has long been rumored to hold evidence of alien technology. And there are even stories that a special facility at Area 51 once held a survivor of the 1953 Kingman UFO crash, an alien entity known as J-Rod.
J-Rod is an alien who allegedly worked at Area 51 over a period of years, and it was J-Rod's mission or duty to help reverse engineer technology that was apparently from the 1953 Kingman UFO crash. J-Rod was one of the crash survivors and worked directly with our own government.
Captain Bill Uhouse, a former Navy pilot who later worked for the U.S. Air Force performing experimental testing on aircraft, was assigned to Area 51 in the mid-1960s. And he claims that he not only studied the craft that allegedly crashed in Kingman, Arizona, but also had direct contact with J-Rod.
We had a long period of introduction into meeting, you know, an alien. And I called him J-Rod. That's the name that the linguist gave him. And he would talk, but he'd sound just like, if you spoke, he'd sound like you. You know, he's like one of the, you know, a parrot, you know, but he'd try and answer your question, you know. Basically, it was only engineering advice or science advice.
There's also another whistleblower by the name of Dan Burish. And Dan Burish said that he was hired as a microbiologist to basically care for J-Rod, ensuring that he remained healthy. And this went on for years and years and years.
According to Dan Burish and Bill Uhouse, J-Rod was housed in a special underground chamber at Area 51. And there have been numerous other accounts of extraterrestrials working with the United States government.
There's a lot of stories that we've worked with the aliens at Area 51, or some say at a base nearby, kind of in the desert out there. And we've been working with them in underground labs, and they have been sharing information for us to enhance our technologies.
Is it possible that the United States government has met with and worked with entities like J-Rod and other alien visitors since at least the 1950s? According to UFO researchers, there is evidence that extraterrestrials have not only been held at secret military bases, but have even met face-to-face with the commander-in-chief inside the walls of the Pentagon. One of the most detailed accounts of a presidential close encounter is the story of an otherworldly visitor named Valiant Thor.
The story of Valiant Thor comes from a gentleman by the name of Frank Stranges, who's a chaplain and apparently held a top secret clearance. As the story goes, in 1957, a UFO landed in Virginia, very close to Washington, D.C. Police officers were called to the scene, and out stepped a human-looking gentleman who wanted to visit with then President Eisenhower. He was taken directly to the Pentagon and was able to arrange a meeting with President Eisenhower. In this meeting, he basically stated that he was very much concerned about our use of nuclear weapons.
Just as another country would post an ambassador to the United States, the theory was that Valiant Thor was the ambassador from the extraterrestrials, and he was, from time to time, advising President Eisenhower and the US government on policy issues.
This idea that an actual physical extraterrestrial visitor could potentially be influencing the course of the world is a possibility. I am sure there's envoys out there that do the same thing, not just on a planet, but in entire planetary systems.
Burbank, California. June 1943. In the midst of World War II, the government presses the Lockheed Aircraft Corporation to develop the next generation of military planes. Jet fighters designed to outflank propeller aircraft and help turn the tide of war. A team headed by Lockheed engineer Clarence Kelly Johnson delivers the first production model in just 143 days. Their P-80 Shooting Star initiates the jet age for the U.S. military. Kelly Johnson's secret research and development team ultimately becomes known as Skunk Works.
Clarence Kelly Johnson was the first head of Lockheed's Skunk Works division back in the 50s and 60s, up until 1975. He's the developer of the U-2 spy plane, which was able to fly at the incredible altitude of 80,000 feet, equipped with photographic capabilities that were astonishing. And he is a great legend in the aviation community, for sure.
Despite his mainstream credentials, Johnson becomes the primary witness to a now famous UFO sighting in Agoura, California, on December 16, 1953. His report of the encounter and his personal sketches of the craft were preserved by Project Blue Book, the U.S. government's official account of the UFO phenomenon at the time.
He was with some of his colleagues at the time when he saw a very, very unusual object that he could not explain in any kind of technology that was familiar to him at the time.
During an era of official skepticism about UFOs, Johnson risks his career by reporting the sighting to his superiors. But instead of being penalized or demoted, Johnson is seemingly rewarded 2 years later when he plays a pivotal role in founding America's most secret military base, Area 51.
Kelly Johnson was the person that identified the location where Area 51 is as a good strategic location. It is fundamentally located in the right part of the world without prying eyes.
But was Area 51 founded merely to test experimental aircraft, as the military insists? Or did Kelly Johnson choose the location as the best place to reverse engineer the very alien spacecraft he believed he saw with his own eyes? Rachel, Nevada, March 17, 2018. Just outside the perimeter of Area 51, Georgios Tsoukalos meets with researcher Wolf Makarin and mining expert Christian Greneau. They are here to investigate rumors of an alleged tunnel network that lies beneath Area 51.
This is amazing, isn't it?
Wolf and Christian believe this location, the Tempute Mine, is one of several old Nevada mines that have been used to expand operations at Area 51, deep underground.
I'm a miner about 100 miles north of Area 51 here, and I've been mining there since 1992. I also own a mine in Goldfield, so I'm just an avid miner, you know. I search these out.
So what can you tell us about Area 51?
Well, Area 51, what you see like on Google imagery, that was the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Since then, they've gone down. Everything they do is underground.
And what evidence have you come across as a miner that would corroborate your idea?
People are questioning, well, if they're going down, where is all the dirt going? Well, it's going to these nearby mines. And they're putting it in huge mountains and they're heap leaching it. By the time they're done heap leaching a huge mountain, it goes down to nothing.
Now, to the uninitiated, what does heap leaching mean?
It is they pile the ore up into a large mountain, hundreds of feet high. And they run hoses all the way through it, like every 2 feet. And they leach in mercury and cyanide. And what that does, it'll take boulders this large and actually just bring them down to nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Is the government using heap leaching inside the Tempute Mine in order to hide the massive amounts of dirt being removed in the course of their digging operations? But if so, how is the government able to conduct such an enormous operation without arousing the suspicion of the local miners?
These mines around here have the gold, silver, lead, so any mine would be more than happy to accept the ore. And it's kind of like hush-up money. I've witnessed this hush-up and dealt with this a lot.
Hush-up of what?
Hush-up of the base for the tunnels of Area 51.
Okay. It's sort of self-explanatory that the reason why people would go underground is if there are experiments going on, that there's no interference or less interference.
Exactly, yeah.
Has the U.S. military been expanding its operations at Area 51, not outward, but downward, in order to keep its top-secret work even more secret than before?
It is my own belief, based on a lot of good research, that there is most likely a large, I would even say vast, web of interconnected underground bases and tunnels that exist. They originally started doing it, by the way, just to protect against an atomic strike that could have happened from the Soviet Union, and you need secure underground facilities. Well, they took that and just ran with it.
There are those that believe that the underground operations being conducted at Area 51 are only the tip of an enormous iceberg. Is it just one of many secret government facilities, each connected to each other by a vast network of underground high-speed trains?
And underground train system is said to be centered around Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs. This is a mountain that has been hollowed out by the U.S. military. It's the NORAD Central Command. And they go from Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs to Dulce, New Mexico, which is said to have an extraterrestrial underground base. Then it goes to Los Alamos in New Mexico, then to Albuquerque and to Roswell, and to Area 51 in Nevada. All of these military bases are essentially connected by a secret underground subway system.
Beale Air Force Base, 1967. U.S. Air Force Captain David Freehoff joins an elite group of pilots flying America's most sophisticated spy plane, the SR-71.
I was an SR-71 pilot for 4.5 years. The aircraft, as far as performance went, it was an hour from coast to coast. It would warp your mind with that kind of performance. And you just felt so proud that you had an opportunity to fly that airplane. and to be a part of that unit and those people. It was family.
No one is surprised when the military assigns such an elite pilot to duties at America's most top-secret Air Force base.
I worked at Area 51 for 6 years, from 1979 till 1985. You had to have a special clearance, a top-secret SBI, Special Background Investigation. Fortunately, I had gotten that while I was flying the SR, so it was an easy transition for me to move from the SR-71 and my clearances and all over into Area 51.
Along with his colleagues, Freehoff commuted each day from McCarran Airport in Las Vegas to Area 51 using a mysterious government carrier named Janet Airlines.
One of the great stories about Area 51 comes from engineer T.D. Barnes. Here's what he said. If there are UFOs being reverse engineered at this base, I wouldn't know about it because you flew out in an airline, Janet Airlines, and the windows were blacked out, so you didn't know where you were going.
Freehoff noticed that on his daily commutes, a select group of scientists and military personnel also boarded the Janet 737 in Las Vegas. When the plane landed at Area 51, this group boarded a bus and headed to an even more secretive facility codenamed Site 4, or S4.
When I was there, we knew about S4, but we didn't know what they did. All we knew is there were certain people that got on the 737 in the morning, and we got to Area 51, they would take and go off in a different direction in a bus, and then we went on to the north, going up towards the hangars.
Freehoff never knew exactly what was going on at Site 4 during his time at Area 51. But when he heard Bob Lazar's story years later, he found that Lazar's description of flying to Area 51 on a Janet 737 and traveling to S4 rang true in every detail.
When I heard Bob Lazar describe getting on the 737 and fly to Area 51 and get off and go through the terminal and go to S4, and everything he talked about and the way he put it, he sounded totally believable to me.
Critics contend that no actual eyewitnesses have ever come forward to confirm that Lazar worked at Area 51, much less at Site 4. But Freehoff claims otherwise.
I know people that had worked for me that after I left there, they had seen Bob Lazar there, and they admitted that to me recently. I know that his critics piled on because obviously they did not want the word to come out that there were in fact UFOs in our possession, and that he was revealing a capability to perhaps our enemies that we in fact were alien technologies.
Kingman, Arizona, May 1953. At the height of the Cold War, an unidentified object reportedly crashed in the desert sands. What remained was allegedly sent to America's most top-secret facility, Area 51. But it wasn't until 45 years later, in 1998, that a retired military engineer named Bill Uhouse came forward to make a stunning claim. The military didn't just have the extraterrestrial technology, they had an actual living alien.
Uhouse claimed that he worked in a secret laboratory, supposedly in the Papoose Mountains of Area 51 in Nevada, and that since 1953, the American government had an insectoid alien that was working with them. His name was J-Rod.
J-Rod supposedly assisted the military in understanding and duplicating the incredible power systems and futuristic technology that was combined and created for the Kingman craft.
Shortly after Bill Uhouse broke the story, microbiologist Dan Burish came forward to confirm his claim. But according to Dan Burish, J-Rod claimed that he was not an alien. What he revealed was something even more shocking.
This insectoid alien, J-Rod, said that he had actually come from our future, and that at some time in the near future to us, there is a catastrophe on this planet, and much of mankind is destroyed, and that mankind splits into two different species. And one of these species goes and lives underground. And while underground, they develop these insectoid traits, which is exactly what the Hopi and Zuni and even Navajo legends say, that during the transition period between the third and the fourth worlds, this above world of today was not habitable, and they had to go underground and live for some time with what they called the ant people. And you have to wonder if perhaps J-Rod is actually an insectoid human being from our own future.
Could the accounts of J-Rod confirm that the Hopi stories of ant people were more than just mythology? And if the so-called insectoids really do exist, is it possible that they are not aliens, but humans from the future?
Aliens appear to be a part of our human evolution over thousands of years. A lot of it has to do with our reproductive systems. Maybe they're actually trying to create a new race, possibly that will be able to withstand atmospheric changes here on Earth, or potentially lead us to a point where we have to leave the planet.
But if humans are someday forced underground by a cataclysmic event, does it even make scientific sense that we would evolve to have insect-like characteristics? According to some scientists, we are part insect already.
The work on the human genome has indicated that possibly up to half of our DNA may be the result of transposons. That's a fancy word for jumping genes, genes that can jump from one species to another. Recently it was shown that Rhodnius, this is the sucking insect that spreads Chagas disease, not only can spread the trypanosome, the disease-causing agent, from organism to organism, it also can spread its own genes to those organisms. Humans get Chagas disease. So far, they've not tested humans for this insect DNA. Odds are, we do have some of these insect genes in our system. We know with some of these transposons probably came from diseases we caught when our ancestors were bitten by insects.
Tucson, Arizona, June 17, 2014. Just 2 months before his death, Boyd Bushman, a senior scientist at Lockheed Martin working with missile and laser technology, records a video confessional to be released after his death.
My name is Boyd Bushman. I'm a senior scientist from Lockheed Martin. I have 27 patents and have changed the world several times.
According to Bushman, while working at Lockheed Martin, he met with individuals with the highest clearance at Area 51. These individuals provided him materials he understood to be extraterrestrial technology.
They would give me pieces of UFOs, and I would come to my laboratories. There are 3 elements which the UFO is contained. One is tellurium, the other is germanium, the other is palladium. And not only that, but the things pick up and fly using anti-gravity.
But perhaps the most intriguing claim made by Bushman involves knowledge of extraterrestrials aiding government scientists at bases like Area 51.
They're approximately 5 feet, 4.5 to 5 feet tall. We have a total of at least 18 that exist and operate with our facility. Now notice the eyes are different, nose are different, but they do have 5 fingers, 5 toes, 2 eyes.
The release of the video online creates a stir, with many viewers insisting that it must be a hoax. But why would a renowned engineer and physicist lie about something so important? Could it be that the long-held rumors of reverse engineering of otherworldly technology, and even stories of extraterrestrial involvement in secret military projects, are actually true?
So much of the digital world goes right back to the retrieval of extraterrestrial craft and beings, which the government drew a wall and said no one is to know. But the truth is, the 21st century is being built on extraterrestrial technology.
How is it possible that in the last 70 years, we've accomplished more than in the last 5,000 years, technologically speaking? What makes us so special today that we didn't know about 5,000 years ago? So I think that the technological advancements we've made are due to retrieving extraterrestrial technology. One has to wonder if these puzzle pieces were left here deliberately or on accident.
If the U.S. military and perhaps other militaries around the world have gained technology from crashed alien ships on our planet, then you would think that the extraterrestrials themselves want us to have this technology, and that we've actually been given the same kind of technology.
I mean, we've seen staggering technological developments recently. It's been suggested that this is part of a program to bring us up technologically.
One of the most amazing things about this idea of reverse engineering alien technology is that it's taken quite a while for us to actually be able to understand it and to be able to utilize it. Maybe we are now reaching a level of technological sophistication that we're going to be able to match the advanced extraterrestrials.
Langley, Virginia, August 15th, 2013. After decades of secrecy, denials, and cover-ups, the CIA declassifies documents which acknowledge the existence of a top-secret military research facility known as Area 51.
This was an historic announcement. Finally, these years of rumors that the UFO community and the conspiracy theory community had been claiming to be true had been validated.
The federal government was forced to acknowledge the existence of the Area 51 base because of a Freedom of Information Act request. It took them over a decade to actually respond, but in the end, they eventually had to admit what everybody already knew, which was that Area 51 did exist.
Since 1955, this top-secret base, located in the remote desert of southern Nevada, has been considered the epicenter of the military's most classified projects, from the U-2 spy plane to the F-117 stealth fighter. But many believe that in the darkest corners of Area 51 lurks an even bigger secret, one that hides the ultimate evidence of extraterrestrial contact.
While the admission that Area 51 existed was important, it didn't go far enough for many people who were hoping that the government was going to confirm all the rumors about crashed UFOs and recovered alien technology were true. But the government said nothing about that.
They only gave us the exact minimal amount of information that was requested. They did not give us any more information, and they certainly appear to still be covering up what exactly goes on at Area 51.
Over the years, there have been a number of claims by people who've been associated with Area 51, who have spoken to journalists or whistleblowers, in which they have stated quite explicitly that there is extraterrestrial technology at Area 51.
The theory was that they had hired propulsion experts, engineers, physicists, to reverse engineer alien propulsion technology, which was so far in advance of ours, and they were doing that at Area 51.
We also have rumors that there are alien spacecraft on the base that have actually been tested and flown out of Area 51.
Is it possible that scientists at Area 51 have been able to not merely study, but successfully reverse engineer an extraterrestrial craft?
For 30 years, people have gone to the perimeter with binoculars, telescopes, and they've seen bright objects moving in angular motions or zigzag motions and in ways that seem to be well beyond anything that we have ever seen, and propulsion technology that's not readily identifiable.
But if Area 51 is the place where the U.S. government is conducting its most top-secret military research and possibly hiding decades of evidence concerning alien contact, just how secret is it now? If everyone knows that it exists and what kind of work is done there, could Area 51 have outlived its purpose as a strategic military asset? In search of the answers, ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos has traveled to Henderson, Nevada.
Hello.
He has arranged to meet with T.D. Barnes, a former electrical engineer who worked on classified military projects at Area 51 for more than 4 decades.
I'll show you this. I'll take my wife back in 2009. That's when she first learned where I worked and what I did.
Only in 2009.
Yeah, 2009.
And when did you start your work there?
I actually started in 1960.
So almost 50 years. You kept it a secret from your wife.
She had no idea.
And what did you work on?
I was radar, electronics, mostly Soviet.
Okay. Let's hypothetically say that a UFO crashes and you get a hold of it. Would we be able to reverse engineer that technology?
Well, I think we could. Even back in the 1980s, we had what you call the rods from God that we had put into space in orbit, and they were nothing but rods that you could release, and just the speed in which they would re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. They were designed to penetrate bunkers and things like this.
Wow. I mean, for all intents and purposes, that was a secret space program. Do you think that this secret space program still exists today?
Oh, much more, I'm sure. It's much more. You imagine now what we've developed back then, they were able to apply later on. It just leapfrog into technology.
Okay. Now, while you were working there, did you ever see anything weird up in the sky?
Oh, absolutely. Planes that no one else has ever seen. They had no wings, it's a flying bathtub. You see something like that, it looks just like a flying saucer.
Wow. In your estimation, when you read these stories about some companies trying to develop a warp drive or even an antimatter propulsion system, is this something actually achievable?
Believe me, we are trying it all types of new propulsion, materials, and our gravity. We are advancing big time in fields that we can only imagine.
Ah, that's tremendous.